So I wanted to talk to you in a video about cutting and self-injury, because I noticed that there's a lot of videos on YouTube about cutting and self-injury, and I'm a cutter, self-injurer, have been ever since the age of 7. And I just kind of wanted to clear up some, first of all, explain why it's done, and second of all, to express some very common misconceptions about cutting. First of all, the reason why cutting is done, the major reason why cutting is normally done is, well, first of all, it's a plea for help, is what it is. There's usually some type of trauma or some type of traumatic issue behind the cutting. And but cutting is usually done as a sense of emotional release. That's not always the case, and as in anything that I'm going to say in this video, there always are exceptions to the rule. But like for the most part, like I would say, excuse me, just a sec. Like I would say 99% of the time it's done as a sense of emotional release. Some common misconceptions about cutting that I really wanted to address, because I get really frustrated because there's a lot of people who actually believe in this stuff, and it just goes unexplained. Those people who don't understand it have a tendency to point fingers at people who cut, and it goes unexplained. So the first one is attention. A lot of people have a tendency to think that people who cut do it for attention. And the truth is that the majority of people who do cut do not do it for attention. If anything, that's the furthest thing from. A lot of people who cut, almost everybody that you will find, wears long sleeves, they wear bracelets, they wear long pants, they wear things to cover up scars, scabs, cuts, etc., because they don't want people to know about them cutting. Unless you're like me and you've gotten to a point where you've run out of room of places to cut, or you've just gotten to a point where you just really don't care who knows whether you cut or not. But for the most part, like I said, it's not done for attention. And for myself, I don't do it for attention. But if it does attract attention, for me, it gives me an opportunity to explain and to educate people about self-cutting and self-injury. Another common misconception about cutting is that it's suicidal, that the person who is cutting is suicidal. The truth is that cutting is not done because the person wants to die. One of the best quotes that I read was that cutting is not done because a person wants to die, but rather because they want to live. And that's very true, because cutting is a plea for help, a very silent plea for help, that should be taken very, very seriously, but it is not suicidal. Very, very rarely is it connected to suicide. There are times when it is connected to suicide. Like I said, there are exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, like I said, suicide and cutting, not the same thing at all. Another common misconception, and this is another one that's really frustrating for me, is that people have this misconception that everybody who cuts is emo. And the truth is that, I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't people who cut that are emo. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist. It does. But the majority of people who cut come from everywhere, from all different races, spaces, you know, money brackets. I mean, they come from all different walks of life. And so to try and categorize them and say that, oh, all people who are emo cut is just ridiculous, because that's not true at all. Which kind of leads me into the next misconception. The next misconception that people seem to have is one of age. Age is, the truth is that cutting knows no age. I've known people, well, I myself, as being a cutter, I started cutting when I was 7, and I know people, like one of my best friends, she's like in her 50s, and she doesn't cut anymore, but she just recently, had a recent kind of fallback to that. And, so it just, age, there's this misconception that you have to be somewhere between the ages of 12 and 18 to be a cutter, and the truth is that that's just a bunch of nonsense. I'm coming up real soon here. I'm going to be 25 years old, and I know that pretty much falls almost into the typical bracket of what everybody assumes of people who cut. But the truth is, like I said, all different ages cut, all different ages. There's people in their 30s that cut. There are people that, there are old folks who cut and self-injure. There's all kinds of different, it just, age, there's no age. And it's really silly and stupid to think that age comes into it. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, a truth, is, and it kind of goes back to the attention and suicide thing. Something that is true is, part of the reason why I kind of reiterate that it's not done for attention or as a suicidal attempt is that it's not done for attention because there's so much, for me, speaking for myself as a cutter, self-injurer, I know, and I face a lot of ridicule from different people about cutting. And so sometimes, and this sounds really, I guess to some people it might sound stupid, but sometimes the ridicule that you get from cutting leads to a circular thing, because sometimes the ridicule is so much that it leads into more cutting. Like sometimes you'll get the ridicule from, a parent, a friend, whoever, found out that you cut, and the ridicule is so major that sometimes that ridicule ends up causing you to cut more. So, I just wanted to educate a little bit more and to tell people, to let people know what cutting really is, and like I said, some very common misconceptions about it that are extremely frustrating to me, and anybody else out there who I know that is a cut or self-injurer. These are the common misconceptions about cutting, why it's done, and what kind of person cuts. There's no kind of person that cuts. There's all different groups, all different walks of life cut, And so this video is meant to educate, and I'm going to mention it in this video, and I'm sure in other videos as well, is Self-Injury Awareness Day is on March 1st, and it is it's a very special day to me. It's a day where you're encouraged to write love or some other positive message on your forearm, and that is in support of people who cut, whether you are a self-injurer or you have a friend who's a cutter, or whether you are or you aren't. Either way, in support and to sort of spread awareness of self-injury. So March 1st is officially Self-Injury Awareness Day, and for those who want to know, the ribbon for self-injury awareness is orange. So I hope this video has been very educational. I hope it's been helpful, and feel free to comment and leave your opinions. Please be respectful. That's all that I ask. You don't have to agree with me at all. I'm not asking that you agree with me. I'm just asking purely that you be respectful. So, but I just wanted to make this video to help educate. So